Hey everyone, Dr. Frunkey here with an awesome new knife console for you on the Oz Machine Company Roosevelt. This is an interesting little knife that has been making the rounds on social media lately and has gotten a lot of attention because of its small size, good-looking ergonomics, and generally good-looking EDC appeal. This is also an interesting way for some people to get their hands on a custom knife that they may not have seen before. Oz Machine Company is a company out of Indiana in the US of a brand new knife company, really, run by Daniel Osborne. Here you can see their website, ozmachinecompany.com, and their email address. They're on Instagram and on Facebook as well. Daniel made his first knife not that long ago, just about 1 year ago. He made his first fixed blade knife, and he rapidly gained the skills to become a folding knife maker. He has a background in being a machinist, and so with those skills and a passion and desire to make folding knives, he started out making like a fixed blade or two, and then he moved on to folders. And about 9 months ago, just before the Blade Show 2019, he actually made his first folders. And I actually was lucky enough to meet him at the show. He recognized me, and he came up with a now-pack case with a few of these knives in it. And they were the very first Roosevelts. Now, they were a little bit more plain. They looked a bit like this sticker with a plain titanium frame lock and some nice anodizing, but the overall profile was largely the same. As you can see on the Certificate of Authenticity here, this is number 17, so he's made a couple more since then, and he's been able to refine his techniques, and he's finally started using some fancy materials. So I like highlighting makers like this because I feel like this allows them the opportunity to continue to grow in their skill, and for people to find makers that might be able to make them an interesting knife that they like with their materials, sort of like this one. I have had made a lot of interesting knives with interesting materials, so it's always fun to me to find a maker that's willing to try these kinds of crazy things. Speaking of the materials, as you can see on this interesting knife, it has some very unique pieces. It's got the Nichols Lizard stainless steel Damascus blade. I've seen it called the Iguana Damascus as well. It's got fat carbon jungle camo on this side and black Damascus on the clip with some black Cerakote. And here you can see his signature. So we're going to move these things off the screen. Let's go ahead and get some vital signs on this knife. Let's find the ruler here. Up front, we are looking at just over 3 inches of blade length. If I get it really nice and lined up, you might be looking at about 3.1 inches of overall blade length with about 3 inches of cutting length. Overall, your length is coming in at 7 inches. Handle length is right at about 4 inches with about 4 1/4 of effective grip area right there. The thing about the effective grip area is that it extends pretty far onto the blade right there almost. It's got that forward choil, a lot like some Spyderco knives have. So speaking of which, let's go ahead and bring out another couple of knives for a size comparison. Here is the Spyderco Para 2 and the Para 3. As you can see, the Roosevelt slots even below the Para 3 in terms of overall size. I don't really have another good knife to show you in that size category, but here is a Koenig Arius for another size comparison. So you can see this is a rather small knife. Now in this configuration with a carbon fiber front side, the weight is the really awesome feature on this knife. I could not believe my eyes when I put this on the scale and it said 2.79 ounces. At about 2.8 ounces, this rivals most things on the market for super lightweight, and it is a nicely sized custom folder. So it already has quite a number of things going for it in terms of its nice size, nice ergos, and nice weight. So let's go ahead and break this knife down anatomically and see what we're working with. Up front is that blade in Nichols Iguana or Lizard Damascus. This is a very neat looking Damascus, stainless steel. It looks a bit like dragon skin or ball bearing Damascus sometimes. It's really nicely patterned. This was the first time that he's ever used Damascus. He used this as well as a boomerang style stainless steel Damascus on a different knife. He made two at the same time. Very unique finish on this. It's more like a hand rub satin combined with a bead blast, combined with a heavy etch. So he is really experimenting and willing to do interesting things with these materials, and clearly he understands the principles behind finishing them and I look forward to seeing what he comes up with next. As you have noticed, the blade deploys via this D-shaped opening hole. I prefer to open this with a spidey flick. As you see, it works quite well. You can open it with the traditional thumb roll. You can also open the knife with a thumb flick if you're skilled at it. It's not the easiest thing in the world to thumb flick, but once you figure out the vector, it's kind of like out in that direction. It opens okay. He takes pride in the fact that this opens by many different mechanisms. When I had the knife at the blade show, it actually even front flipped rather effectively, but he's increased the detent so that it doesn't do that quite as easily anymore. But that's okay. It still spidey flicks quite well, and that's my preferred method of opening any knife, and I really like that. Some people may not be a fan of the D-shaped hole. It makes it a little bit less comfortable to open the knife in this way. I find that my fingers rest on the lock bar when I open a knife like this, and sometimes that locks it in place. On this particular knife, it almost doesn't matter if you're pushing on the lock bar. The knife will still open easily. Some knives have that problem. This one does not. So, moving back to the pivot, this is running on ball bearings on the inside there. These are ceramic bearings, if I'm not mistaken. Looking on the inside there. Yes, sir. Ceramic bearings, I can see them there. And it has rather simple pivot hardware. Here's an area that maybe if you were to get a build, you could encourage him to do something a little bit fancier there, or even a flush screw might be kind of nice. This is, again, number 17, so he's still working out the kinks. It's rather simple hardware right there. On a fancy build like this, perhaps a collar or something a little bit different with the screw might have been nice, but that's not really a strong complaint. Something that I've just noticed right here, as you close the knife, you're going to see the maker's mark, the OZ, right there with the number 17. Now that's hidden from view in the open and the, in the open position, but in the closed position, you're going to see it right there. I actually think that that's very subtle and quite nice. I have not seen it placed in that location quite like that before. Very neat. So back to the pivot here. The action is incredibly smooth. As I mentioned, he increased the detent after the blade show, so it has a very nice, very snappy detent. Really, really crisp and easy to open up. Really easy to open in almost every way. It's a little bit harder to open with the thumb now that detent is increased, but again, it's not that terrible. Not a front flipper anymore. Moving back to the handle here, as you can see, the front scale is this cool fat carbon green camo, the jungle camo pattern. It's got two different colors of green in that unidirectional carbon fiber pattern. It's got a really nice chatoyance to it. And it's matched very nicely with the black Damascus clip on the back. It was very clever to do the green anodizing there. So as you can see, he has skills at anodizing as well. This is a really good demonstration of how he can finish different things, both the Damascus and the black Damascus and the carbon fiber all finished very well. To get a nice green anodization takes a pretty good amount of skill with anodizing in order to achieve a nice finish, and he has done that here. And then we have the black Cerakoted side. The back spacer is rather simple, sort of quarter length back spacer right here. This is probably a missed opportunity again on this dressy knife with a very plain back spacer. It might have been cool to see this done in the black Damascus, or at least colored in some way. This may be titanium, this may be steel, I'm not sure. It's most likely titanium. And it does have a lanyard hole for those of you who care about such things. So, what do I think about this knife? Well, the base knife, which comes in basic titanium, starts at about $500. And I think that price point is a little bit high for what you're really getting here. It's a rather simple frame lock folder. It does have hidden hardware on the clip. I should mention that. The newer models here have internal milling to keep the weight down. Again, 2.8 ounces. At $500 for a simple one, it's a little bit expensive. You're starting to get up into the territory of things like the Koenig Arius that has been so good for so long. And all the other knives from Waht and China and all the other companies that are making these things. So the question is, why should you buy a knife like this? And that is sort of a very subtle thing. For people who enjoy custom-built knives, this is an opportunity to get in early with a new maker who's making a quality product. This knife has good lockup. I've tried to get the lock to fail, and I have not been able to do it. There is no lock insert on this current model. But this is an opportunity for people to get in with a maker where they may be open to suggestions. and to trying new things. And as you guys know, I really enjoy doing that. And so why wouldn't I want to introduce you guys to a maker like that? He is a very nice guy. I met him and his wife at the Blade Show, and that makes all the difference in the world in this industry. Because a lot of times we're not just purchasing knives. We're buying a service from somebody that we like, and we're trying to help them. And so I think that Daniel and his wife and this setup that they have is a very nice thing and should be encouraged for people to be making interesting, great products right here in the US of A and make them accessible to the general public. This one is going to be sold at auction on his Facebook and Instagram, so keep an eye out on those feeds for when he decides to sell this one. This is a really, really cool knife, extremely nicely done. What do I think of the knife overall? I think that it has a great blade, full flat ground blade. I had not mentioned that yet. Very nice edge on it. He does a mirror polished, very, very sharp edge on this knife. I love that it's a Spidey Flick deployment and not just another flipper. The detent is great. The action is great. The ergonomics are excellent. My hand fits in this very nicely, even though I have an extra large size hand. I get the full 4-finger grip. Even in the choked back position, you get a little bit more reach with the knife, but I still have a very firm grip. That is very nice. There are no hot spots. I love the fact that it's hidden hardware on the clip to really push that clip all the way up to the corner right here. And it's very smooth in and out of the pocket. Even though this is a black Damascus clip, the ramp and the clip work very, very well. The ramp and the spring work very, very well. So this is an excellent EDC folder, albeit very expensive for the entry price. But this is something that we come to understand in the small batch production or custom world. If someone is going to make a knife custom to your spec, it's going to cost you a little bit of money, but no one else is going to have a knife quite like it. So happy to introduce this to you guys. Again, ozmachinecompany.com. You can check them out on Facebook and Instagram. Send them an email here. Thank you to Daniel for sending this knife along. It takes a lot for a young maker to entrust one of his expensive knives to somebody to review. There's a lot of risk involved. I could have said this was crap, but it is not. And, I try to be honest with you guys. I'm not saying you need to rush out and spend money to buy this right now, but it is a great knife. I do think that it will stand up to the test of time, and I do think that Daniel is a good guy, and so I'm happy to do this for him. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think of the Roosevelt down below in the comments. Click like and subscribe to my channel. Go ahead and follow Oz Machine Company. Follow me at Dr. Frunkey on Instagram. And as always, guys, this is Dr. Frunkey saying, take care.